Hey everyone, I'm Ananya Chordia and I'm going to be throwing light upon mental health and the whole stigma attached to it. Let's start with some questions, shall we? Have any of you ever heard people say things like, oh, there is no such thing as a mental illness, it's all for attention? Or, why is he depressed when he has everything? Or, they weren't brought up well? That's right, you all probably have, because these sentences are used so commonly in our society. And this in turn has built a stigma towards these illnesses. When there is no education imparted or importance given to mental health, as you all know, it can lead to serious consequences. Thinking about it, it's similar to COVID 19. If you lose your sense of smell or taste and do nothing about it, it could lead to serious repercussions. This serious consequence that mental illnesses could result in is suicide, a topic that I hold close to my heart. Climate change, technology, and poverty. All these extrinsic subjects are talked about so commonly and, moreover, just given so much importance. What I'm unable to comprehend is why aren't the topics that are intrinsic given equal importance? This truth about suicide and the whole stigma attached to it is devastating, and it is something that more people need to throw light upon. No one will ever tell you that you are faking cancer just for attention. So, why is it that people think that suicide is something that you do to gain attention? When I was just 12 years old, I remember one of my close friends coming to me and telling me that she was suicidal. At first, I found it extremely hard to believe because she seemed just fine. The sad part about these cases are that most people seem fine. That day, I remember going home and Googling the word suicide. I remember feeling shattered, finding out just how many people took their life every year. I remember feeling this fear that I would feel responsible for the rest of my life, and I was left clueless. There was this constant contemplation in my head. Was I supposed to break their trust and talk to an adult? Or was I just supposed to do nothing? I was 12 at the time. I really didn't know what to do. When I began to observe her closely, I realized that she didn't seem to enjoy the things that she previously did. She had become withdrawn and she found social occasions a real effort. She couldn't concentrate on anything. Everything seemed so bizarre and new. I tried to think of all the ways that I could help her. I couldn't find anything. I remember feeling hopeless. And then one day I realized that maybe I should just listen to her. And that was the trick. My friend just needed someone to be there for her, and I was. I never let her go out of my sight, and I was extremely conscious about her actions and observed her emotions at every point of time. I am proud to say that I helped her through her journey, and today she is just fine. The point that I'm trying to get to here is that no one has to ever lose someone they love, someone they felt like they could have helped. If we all want to make a difference, we need to start talking about our mental health more openly. Even today, I just can't help but think that if mental health wasn't stigmatized and openly talked about, maybe the 1.39 lakh suicides in India would have been halved. Maybe my friend would have openly talked about her struggles with depression and she would have gotten the help that she needed. Maybe she wouldn't have gone through anything at all because she would have found the help that she needed at the right time. Maybe all the people who felt lonely during the lockdown would have found that they aren't alone and gotten the help that they needed at the right time. Just like our yearly doctor's appointments, we need to constantly check in with ourselves. If we feel different or if we feel unhappier. When we get a cough, we know that we need to call the pharmacist to get a cough syrup. But why isn't this the case when it comes to mental health? I believe that people aren't exposed to it and often find themselves confused upon how to handle it. It is a reality of the world today. So instead of remaining in a state of denial, let's all try and make a difference. I know a lot of people who have this misconception that when a suicidal person wants to take their life, they will. This fuels the dangerous notion that it is useless to reach out to someone who's suicidal. Instead, try being proactive and try being there for them, and you too can save a life. Let's talk about certain statistics now. 1 among 4 people, according to a recent survey conducted after the pandemic, that's how many people within the age bracket of 18 to 24 had seriously considered suicide in the 30 days preceding the survey. The pandemic has brought about this unusual amount of stress upon us, and people don't know how to handle this. The COVID-19 pandemic is something that is not limited to a certain space or time. It can be seen everywhere, and it doesn't appear to have an end. Along with this anxiety looming around the pandemic, there are added economic pressures, lifestyle changes, and just lesser social interactions in general. Openly talking about our mental health does not make these problems go away, but it makes us realize that we aren't alone. And if required, we do have the support from our loved ones to go to therapy or to find a psychiatrist. The World Health Organization states that close to 8 lakh people die due to suicide every year, which is 1 person every 40 seconds. Which means that as we are talking right now, almost 15 people have committed suicide, which I find frightening to say the least. I know that this is a rather personal topic, but since we have spoken about the importance of removing the stigma around mental health, I'm going to ask you this question as though I was asking you if you had a headache. Have any of you ever had mental health issues? This practice about talking about our mental health openly is essential in today's day and age. And if we do achieve this, we are one step closer to breaking that stigma. If we continue to discuss such topics in our daily life, we can break the stigma and maybe we will progress to become a happier world. Mental health awareness in India is poor. No one considers this an actual illness because people believe it's an act to get attention. This probably is the case because many people aren't aware of the fact that our physical health and mental health are equally important. According to a WHO report, 60 million Indians, which is slightly more than the total population of South Africa, are suffering from mental disorders of different kinds. There are many people in India who consider their social status much more important than their mental health. This partially comes from the notion that a person who has a mental health issue has not been brought up well. They're worried that you won't find a career or that you won't get married. If someone had chickenpox, I don't think people would think the same way. People don't take their loved ones to psychiatrists. They say things like, a priest is enough for you. They say things like, you are too sensitive, or beta, it happens to everyone. This stigma is the reason why many people don't go to their family or friends to seek help. This stigma is the reason why people believe that they aren't normal. Stigma and segregation can likewise intensify someone's mental health issues and defer or block their finding support and therapy and their recuperation in general. And yes, although I do agree that people in India are finally getting more comfortable talking about their mental health, we still have a long way to go. The day that we can tell our boss that we missed work because we had an anxiety attack, that day we have broken the stigma. The day that we can talk to our friends and family openly about our experiences with mental health, that day we have broken the stigma. The day we realize that we all have mental health, that day we have broken the stigma. When we know that the government is making changes in its policies and helping anyone who suffers from mental health, that day we have broken the stigma. The mental health situation in India demands active policy interventions and resource allocation by the government. To reduce the stigma around mental health, we need to measure, to train and sensitize the community. And this can only happen when we have a persistent nationwide effort to educate the societies about mental health diseases. People must be able to access the same healthcare facilities as those with physical health issues. Now, not everyone who suffers from mental health issues resorts to suicide, so you can imagine how prevalent this issue is. According to recent data collected, 197 million people around the world suffer from mental health issues, and 80,000 resort to suicide. People use excessive drugs, excessive alcohol, and the list goes on. All these people feel alienated from society because of the prejudice around people who are mentally ill. And this sometimes fuels the fire and can cause them to become suicidal. The truth is that a person of any caste, any race, or any gender can face these issues. You are not less likely to face these issues if you have a good amount on your paycheck. Now, these are the myths that we need to remove. You are not less likely to face these issues because you are married. Now, these are the myths that we need to remove. Everyone is susceptible to mental health issues because we all have mental health. Looking at someone's wealth, social status, or family life does not give you an insight towards how they are feeling. We need to remove this myth from our minds that only the less fortunate face these conditions. When you succeed in removing these myths about mental illnesses, you're already 50% closer to accepting and supporting them. We cannot keep these issues locked away. People who face mental health issues are not less human. We are all entitled to negative emotions. Scientifically too, what is our amygdala for? The problem is not with them, but rather with us. And the solution is rather simple. Let's promise ourselves that the children of the next generation won't grow up in societies like this. And this change begins right here, right now. I call it the mindset shift. And there's 2 steps that you need to take before you can say that you've accomplished the mindset shift. Now, we've spoken about these 2 steps throughout the speech. Removing myths and spreading awareness. Yes, it is that simple. Today, let's all take a small step to progress and become a happier nation. And this change can start within your homes, within your friend circle, or be within yourself too. We cannot keep silent anymore. Let's start today. Thank you.